Hello, and welcome to episode 33 of the Carry On with Carrie podcast. Today, I am delighted to welcome Big Daddy Tazz, the Bipolar Buddha. He is often described as one of the most talented comics in the business. Big Daddy Tazz has been delighting crowds from coast to coast for over 30 years. For the last 20 years, Big Daddy Tazz has brought forth light and laughter for those living with mental illness by raising awareness on how stigma affects us all. Tazz believes in educating, embracing, and empowering everyone so that we can all stand tall and give stigma a bad name. His comedy appearances include the prestigious Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, the Moncton Comedy Festival, CBC's The Debaters, and the CBC Winnipeg Comedy Festival, which can be seen frequently on CBC Television and the Comedy Network. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm super happy. Winnipeg's got very little snow, and it's -3. So thank you, Aquanet. Right? I mean, it's just whatever's happening out there. My buddy just sent me a message from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. My two buddies, they're out fixing their cars in t-shirts today because it was warm enough, no snow. So
yeah,
I'm pretty happy not to be frozen. That's all it is. Huh?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's how it is where I am too. It's not a usual year, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
The only reason we had a white Christmas is because it snowed 8 days before.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Well, my dad grew up in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, and I lived in Winnipeg for 3 years. So I do know what their winters are like.
That's long enough, actually. 3 years is almost like that's if you were in prison, that'd be 41 years.
Exactly. My mom felt that way, definitely. She must love my dad.
Well, my wife lives out in the Okanagan, and I live here. It's an odd sort of a relationship, but she has elderly parents, and I have my boys. So when we got married, we went, well, we'll just have to travel back and forth. And she was saying, oh, how cold is it? It's like 2 degrees here in Summerland. I went, it's 8 degrees in Winnipeg. So I don't know where we're going to be living. But
yeah, someday Summerland, hopefully. Hey?
Humble brag once a millennia,
yeah.
Right? So.
That's right. So yeah, I've had the pleasure of being able to see you live on one of your shows here in Edmonton, in Sherwood Park, Alberta, for the RCMP ball out here, and I found it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was, wasn't it? And I was just surprised as you went on, just to hear, your mental health advocacy, your sobriety, and how open you were to share. And I loved the laughter behind it. And I couldn't wait to talk to you about it.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's lovely, kind words.
So can you kind of give us a little bit of background on where you your story?
Well, I've been sober my oldest is 29. I've been sober since he was about 4. So I've been sober for about 25 years. And I'm still constantly working on my mental health, but I decided in and around the same time that it's not fair to anybody else for me to not try to take care of my mental health. It's not fair to me to not take care of my mental health. And I was better to be alive than take my life. And so I made that choice, and I've been very vocal about it. Slowly whispers to now screams and yells, right? Of rah, rah, rah. When I first started out, I was the only person and the only entertainer that I knew that was talking about mental health, and the only guy that was talking about it openly on stage. And so, of course, I got backlash, and I got people that wouldn't book me, and, they would hire me, and, oh, I don't talk about mental health shit. You're just a comedian. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. And then on the other side, I had people that were upset that I was joking about it. I go, listen, I'm not joking about mental health. I'm joking about how the idiocy of me not wanting to get help, and the things that went wrong, and the things that were funny. No different if I tripped down a flight of stairs or if I slipped on a banana peel or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was talking about, is the silliness that can come with it, right?
Right.
The fact that I couldn't work for months because I was my mental health was not working, and then I go to buy my mental health medication, and they're like $400 a month. I went, well, you know what? I don't know how this works, but you want to front me some, and I can give you some money later on, right?
Yeah, it's enough to depress you right there.
But yeah, here's what I learned too, is that if I make you laugh, you pay attention
Yes.
because I'm including you. And then if you're easier to teach if you're laughing.
Yes.
So I'll try to teach you a little bit about yourself to understand that, unfortunately, you're no different than anybody else when it comes to struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We all think we're unique, or we all think our situation is unique, and some of them are. But the basics are we're all the same. We all need help. We all need to be able to ask for help, and we all need love of self. And we forget that love of self is very important. Some people call it ego, and some people call it, that you're being greedy or something like that. No, here's what happens: if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's it, and that's me. And I've been a comedian for 32 years this year. I think it is 33 years this year, and a mental health speaker for well over 25 years. And I'm happy, right? I'm happy and at peace for the most part. I do still struggle with my mental health, and I post it. Whenever I start struggling with my mental health, I post it online so people can understand. Oh, okay. And then as soon as I feel better, I post that too, so people can see. Oh, okay. Sometimes it's only minutes, and sometimes it's hours, and sometimes it's weeks.
Right.
But at the very end, just like my gran used to say, after every winter, no matter how harsh, there's always a spring.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Right. So we get back to the sunshine and the flowers and the green grass on the outside, and the feeling the grass on our toes and the warmth on our face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And other times it's cold and feels lonely, and lonely doesn't mean by yourself, right? Lonely just feels like you cannot make a connection with no matter how many people are in the room.
Exactly.
I felt lonely at Just for Laughs, where there's thousands of people. I felt lonely in a room full of people. I felt lonely on stage in front of 1,000 or 200 people or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Loneliness is just the inability to make a connection with those around you for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah, and it's something that is hard to explain to other people that, maybe have never felt that. So then that's where sometimes the isolation does come in. So how was that then? Like you explained, you've been on Just for Laughs, you were on CBC Radio, the Debaters. I used to listen to that show every day. I used to run loader up north, and it made me laugh. And anyways,
It's
can you tell us?
It's my favorite program to do is the Debater.
Yeah, are you still doing it?
Yeah, I did one last year. I think I'll be doing one this year, and I do love the Debaters because they give you a subject and you have to write for that subject. You cannot fall back on old material or anything like that. You have to write all new stuff, and you got to be clever. Right.
And I wondered, do they give that to you ahead of time? I always wondered that.
Yeah, they give you the subject ahead of time, and they give you because it is a show.
Yeah.
Right. So they give you the subject ahead of time. They give you, okay, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna do a bare knuckle round, which is just that we don't prepare for. That's just something that we just come out and start talking to each other about. And then there's the questions. They give you the questions ahead of time because sometimes it's hard to. When you're right in that second, your brain doesn't always work the way. And then we get together and we challenge each other, the other comedian or the other writer or whomever else happens to be on. And, right. And I love it. I love it when I'm for sure the most popular of the opinion. Right.
Yes.
It doesn't mean I'm always going to win. It doesn't always. I was the most popular opinion for one of the. I don't remember which Debaters it was, but Kate a friend of mine, Kate, was debating me, and she just walked all over me with all her
Yeah.
stuff about how how big. I think it was something like big cities versus smaller cities, or the big city versus the prairies. And I'm like, in my brain, I thought, well, I should probably win this one because I'm in a prairie town,
Right.
right? We were in Saskatchewan at the time, prairie town, and I'm like, I'm doing really good. And then Kate comes out, that was a home run. There's another home run. There's another home run, right?
Yeah.
And she was just so charming, right? So there's no rhyme or reason for um, no rhyme or reason for what side you take, right?
For
The other
sure.
day I was like, who was I? Everything's the other day to a comedian. Sorry, I think the last one was Winnie the Pooh, and I was all about Winnie the Pooh, how he was, teaching lessons and things like that, and right?
Mhm.
And the other fellow was Ian was against Winnie the Pooh, thought he was used, that sort of thing. So it was a lot of fun, right? It's just fun, and it's a nice way to debate too because it's silly,
Yeah, and
right?
that's what I loved about it. It was just a light part of the day.
I remember one time somebody said something. I said, "Yeah, you're wearing an orange shirt." And they got a laugh, and it made no sense.
Right.
It made no sense at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're wearing an orange shirt. What do you know? And it had nothing to do with the debate at all. But I had nothing else to say. I'm like, oh, nice hat, right?
Right on. And I remember you saying something about passionately about your love for children and how much involved you are with that side of your life. Can you explain a little bit of how that's helped your mental health?
You know what? It's when you get in there to teach kids. I was always taught that it was easier to teach than unteach, right? So as an adult, I was told men are have to be the rock. Men have to be, in charge. Men cannot have any emotions. Men do not cry. I remember crying one time, and somebody go, "You gonna have a sex change? You want to go have a sex change?" I don't understand what but it's toxic, right? It's toxic manhood. And so I decided many years ago, 25 or 26 years ago, if I went to schools early,
Yeah.
and taught kids that, about my thought was that you can't be bullied if you believe in yourself.
Right.
You can get disappointed, you can get hurt, you can do all that sort of stuff, but nobody can bully you if you know that you're a good person and if you have self-love. So I used to teach anti-bullying in schools and blah blah blah, and then I decided, no, it's not about that. It's about if you love yourself.
Right.
That's what it boils down to.
Everything does.
Oh yeah, and so kindergarten kids love themselves. They love everything about themselves, and if you're being mean to them, they walk away.
Right.
And I went, this is how we have to we have to live our lives like kindergarten kids.
Everything you ever needed to know, you learned in kindergarten. Isn't that
everything you need to know, you learn in kindergarten, right? And so as you get a little bit older, grade 1, you're still pretty self-sufficient. Well, you still rely on others, but you still know that if I'm going to somebody's going to be mean to me, I'm just going to walk away and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to play with them. Grade 1, they're like, why are they being mean to me? Those people are mean. That man's mean. That person's mean. That boy's mean. That girl's mean. But at grade 2, 3, 4, you start going, oh, they're being mean. What's wrong with me? Why are they being mean to me? What have I done? What have I done? It's nothing that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
That's their fly in the ointment, not yours. Right? The flaw in the character is not those who are getting bullied. It's the bully, right?
Right.
So I decided to go in and talk about mental health in schools, and they said, no. Oh, no, we don't talk about mental health. Nope, we don't talk about mental health. I said, okay, can I come and read a book to them? Oh, we'd love you to read a book to them. So I read them a book and then talked about mental health.
Right on. That's awesome. And then you started something from there.
Yeah, I started Tazzy Reads program, and so I did that for all through COVID, where I read books to kids online every night. It used to be every morning and every night. So every morning at 10:30, every night at 7:30 Central Time. And then once the schools came back in, I went back into the schools, and I've been going in and talking. And for grade, I love Kate, K1, 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then the high school students, because the high school students, they are given a questionnaire that says, and they're not to put their name on it. They just circle yes or no. That's all they have to do. Have you ever tried to harm yourself? Have you ever thought about harming yourself? Do you ever feel depressed? Do you ever feel anxious? Blah, blah. And then we mix up the papers and we hand them out. And then I ask the question. So for question number 1, right? How many people have ever felt anxiety and the hands go up? And then after about 4 or 5 questions, they look around and they realize, oh, I'm not alone.
Right.
And that's the most important lesson.
Yeah, to know that there's other
that
people.
They're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, especially at that age. I mean, and that's where normalizing it comes in. I find women talk about it so easily, but it's often hard to get a guy to speak up. And I wanted to know a bit about how you were diagnosed, if you're comfortable sharing that. And
I'm. You ask and I'll answer.
Okay.
People. It's not whether or not I'm comfortable. I always say, are you comfortable for the answer? Because I will. And just back to what you were saying there about getting men to talk up. That's why they say, twice as many men suffer from mental health issues than women, and that's skewed because that's only because twice as many men will answer that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right? Yeah.
And I think it's more like 5 or 6 to 1.
Right. Yeah.
Because and I love this. 1 in 5 people or whatever, or 1 in 2 people now they're saying will have lived with a mental health. I hate those statistics because it's not true. 1 in 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can if any of your listeners can write in and say, I've never had or heard of anybody in my family that has been sad or depressed or had or whatever.
Yep.
None. All of us. Everyone. I asked them. We were doing a show. Sorry, I got to finish the sentence. I did. We had about 20 or 3,500 people, I think, when I was in Boston doing a show. I said, hands up if anybody here has ever had anybody in their life, including themselves, have any kind of mental health. And I said issue because it's that they were calling issue. Everybody's hand went up. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I believe it.
So in that room, it was 1 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And that's what I've learned about doing what I'm doing with this podcast.
It's the only thing that makes us, the only thing we have in common is that we're all a little bit different.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But if you look at the basic things, my heart beats, my heart weeps, my heart pines, my heart desires. Those things are the same for everybody as well.
Mm-hmm.
Desire different things, right?
Yes.
My heart weeps for different things. Some people have a little bit of thicker skin. They'll see something happen and they don't have tears, whereas I have tears.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And the thicker skin could just be your own coping mechanism, and you're not even,
100%, right? I mean, it's their ability to distance themselves from what's happening at that moment sometimes.
Exactly. I just wanted to, go back to.
Oh, you asked about my diagnosis.
Yeah, about your diagnosis.
It's nice to have an interview with a guy that has ADHD. Hey, I love squirrels.
So do I.
Squirrels, which is the same as But I was diagnosed. I've always been an odd kid. I've always had anger, crazy bad anger, and I always wore my heart on my sleeve or up on my throat. I was quick to tears, right? And I couldn't pay attention as much as I wanted to. I got the strap a lot in school for not paying attention. I remember getting the strap one time, and they're like, "Are you going to pay attention now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to try, but my hands hurt." Right? The hell's happening, right?
Yeah.
And I've fought a lot.
I'm learning how to choose the right audio apps for you. Which one do you want?
Apparently, my watch wants to talk to me.
That's awesome.
I'm glad that voice was coming from my. I was glad that voice is coming from my watch and not something that I've just, manipulated in my head to figured out another mental illness that I have. It's funny when I try to talk to my watch, it ignores me.
Right.
But when I'm ignoring my watch, it has to chime in.
Like every other woman, hey? No, just.
So I would get. I would fight or I got beat up a lot when I was a kid because I was the chubby kid and the kid with the, the big glasses, and everybody knew my parents were drinkers and that sort of stuff. So I didn't get any help until I was in my mid-20s. Actually, it'd be 1994, 5, 6, 7, around 97, I think. My son was about 3 or 4 years old when he said something to me that made me sort of, I need to fix something. And but that day I became clean and sober. I decided no more drugs, no more drinking, and then I got help with my mental health. And I found a great psychiatrist who works really well, and he's awesome. He's really, really good. And I took medication for a long time, and took various medications, and Epival and Effexor and things like that. And then they didn't work anymore, because that's the way drugs work. Sometimes they're like, hey, we're done here. We're going to go somewhere else. What else you want to do? Hey, let's spend $400 for you to piss us out, right?
Yeah.
And so I, found some lithium. I didn't find some lithium. What's this? Let's take this. Oh, it's a battery. That made me feel good. There's, and cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And also, I got rid of a lot of people in my life that were just complete mean to me. And so when you reduce the level of assholery in your life, then you're on a better path.
Yes,
because
every time.
Sometimes it's better to be alone.
Yeah.
Than have people helping you point out everything you've done wrong in your entire life. I don't mind when people say, hey, you know what? That wasn't your best show. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, that's different, though.
Constructive criticism and the helping hands of those who have seen you do your best. And I mean, I got two boys. I have a 29-year-old and a 16-year-old, because I'm really good at relationships. They have no problems telling me, yeah, you didn't hit that even out of the park. I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah.
But they're also, Dad, that's the best thing I've ever seen you do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Dad, that's so funny.
And I'm
right?
sure
Dad,
that you're
stop embarrassing me in front of my friends.
Right.
That sort of thing, right?
And then you continue to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, my job as a father is to make sure my boys feel uncomfortable with me being around every once in a while. Yes.
That's right. And I'm sure, though, that overall they are very proud of you and what you are doing and your message. Now, we talked a little bit about your diagnosis, and you quit drinking, you became sober, decided to change things around. Can you explain a little bit about what your diagnosis was, and maybe what were the things, like you talked about anger and all of those things? At what age did you notice those things changing in your life, or were they always somewhat there? And then how did they come up with your...
The anger's been there as long as I can remember, right? My dad was a kind of a violent cat. I'll put it this way. My mom and dad were amazing human beings. They just didn't have the skills to be parents. Neither one had good parents. And my dad especially did not have good parents. He grew up basically in an orphanage and was abused. And, the stuff that I found out after he died from my uncle, I just cried for days because, anyway. So I cried for days because if my dad had just felt it was okay to talk about this, the relationship we had would have been amazing.
Right.
Because, we both were abused. We both were, that sort of stuff. But so that's all I need to say about that for mom and dad. But I've always been a kid that couldn't pay attention, a kid that was violent and acting out and angry and things like that. And so when I got diagnosed with ADHD. Mm-hmm. Really? Even just recently, I had my doctor, Dr. Gordon, said to me, okay, we're doing a telephone thing. He says, are you there in front of your computer? Yes. He goes, okay, I got to take this other call, and you go on your computer and take this test. Here's the thing for ADHD. And I said, okay. And of course, he gets back to me like 15 minutes later. He goes, okay, I'm back. Do you take the test? I'm like, oh no, but there are like 4 golf balls on the moon, and like I found out all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, take it with me. So take it now. So I took it, and I'm taking it, and he goes, okay, what score are you at right now? And I looked up in the corner, it was like 56, it was 60 questions or 55 questions. 56 of them I had answered yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh. I said, oh, what tells you if you've got ADHD? He goes, like 13 or something. So, yeah, you probably got ADHD. And I said, well, I could have told you that because I've stopped listening to you like 3 times during this conversation because something more interesting is happening.
Right.
OCD, I didn't know what OCD was, obsessive compulsive disorder, and I have that. And you think ADHD and OCD would cancel each other out, right? You think they have to, right? It's like it'd be like red wine and white wine. You pour one on the other, they both disappear, right?
Yeah.
Then there's bipolar disorder, which is the manic depressive part, which makes a lot of sense. And then I have social anxiety and anxiety. And it's funny that my job is a comedian to stand in front of people, and I have social anxiety, which means I'm terrified to be in front of people, right? Dyslexia is thrown in there as well, and yeah, I think that's about it. I might have missed 1 or 2 that are just on the fringe, probably, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to have I don't need to have them all. I don't need to be a walking DSM, right?
Right.
I just want to be, and so, but as soon as I started learning about this, and if you are afraid to get help, here's what's going to happen. They're going to go, we think you're this, and you're going to go, bullshit, I'm not that. I'm a man. I have a penis. That means I am totally impervious to any kind of crying, or I'm impervious to any kind of pain, and I'm impervious to this. And then you're going to be, you're going to go, what does that mean? And they're going to say, well, ADHD means that you have trouble concentrating, and you're like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Right?
Right.
As soon as you get your diagnoses, you're like, for a couple things happen. You become at peace because you're not broken.
Right.
Right? You're ill.
Yeah.
And that's what the people forget.
Yes.
Mental illness. They hear the mental part and they're like, well, you got to just pull yourself up by the bootstraps here. Right? You got to do it. And maybe just try a little harder not to be crazy. Hey, try that there, right? And you're like, well, no, that's not the way that works, right?
Yeah.
I'm ill. I've got an illness, and then people they'll tell you, okay, here's this and here's that and here's this and there's that. You look at yourself, you go like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Oh, is that why I spent $43,000 in a weekend? I'm manic, and I'm not going to lie to you, mania. If I could have mania without hurting all the people and spending all my money and hurting myself, I'd live there every freaking day of the world. All time.
A lot
I
of
would
shit
live
done, hey?
in a manic. Now you feel like you're invincible. I can bench press a house, right?
Right.
I can do whatever, and that's funny too. And the other thing too, I'm just gonna go to this segue because you're not stopping me. When I first found out that I was bipolar,
yeah,
and then I came out of my depression, and then I started feeling good. I'm like, oh no, now I'm manic. No, it's not the way it is. Okay? And that's the thing too, is that because I'm bipolar, my wife knows that I'm bipolar. My boys know I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
If they start seeing certain changes in me, if my humor becomes like biting and mean,
oh, okay,
or if I'm not like I go, no, that'll take care of itself, right? That's a. So there's all these indicators,
right?
Because when you're depressed, you know you're depressed because you're in bed and you're crying, or your heart is weeping, or you're just, I don't feel like eating. But when you're manic, your brain just goes, let's just go with this now. Have at her. There's nothing wrong. You do not need a conscience. It does not matter, right? And so that's when you don't. I never realize when I'm in a manic state. I can feel it coming on now. So I say to my wife,
okay,
let's be careful. Let's see what's going on. Here's my credit cards. I'll take the credit card that's got a $1,200 limit, and you have all these other ones that have all the other limits.
Yeah.
Because if the worst case scenario, I buy $1,200 worth of comic books, it's not $40,000 worth of comic books because
right.
I've screwed up huge with money before, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go ahead, sir.
So in the manic state, would you say, like when you were on stage, for instance, going back to that, it's just, I find it fascinating. Yeah. Like, how did you ever have manic, were you manic while you were on stage?
Oh yeah, I've been manic while I've on stage before. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And how did
Oh, for
that?
sure. Probably some of the best shows that nobody understands.
Yeah.
Right? The racing pattern, thought pattern. I mean, I remember I did a show and it was like 2.5 hours or 3 hours, and I still wanted to keep going, but the people were like, "We have to go to work tomorrow," right? So, and I was in a manic state at that point in time.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, people can tell faster than you can often,
Yes. Yes. They are your
and
loved ones.
that's why I'm open about it.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, if I didn't let people know, I'm not, but if I was allergic to tuna,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
and I didn't let people know I was allergic to tuna, and I just ate whatever, right, and then all of a sudden I started ballooning up. You're like, oh my god, what's happening? What did that want me? But if you let people know, you're like, oh my god, he's going into anaphylactic shock. Let's do blue to the sky, orange to the thigh, and away we go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With a EpiPen. If you didn't let people know that you were could have seizures, and you went and saw a movie that had blinking lights, all of a sudden you had a seizure. People are like, oh my god, what's going on? Whatever. They're like, okay, he's having a seizure. This is okay. Let's get him treated for that, right?
Yeah.
It's like any other illness. But for
Other.
some reason, we're secretive about a mental illness.
Yes.
If we called it a brain disease, guess what?
Totally different.
Nobody poke fun of it.
Nope.
Right?
That's what I've started referring to it. Like in some ways I refer it to it's my brain. It's my brain that's having some issues. It's just like if my liver was having some issues, or my eyes, or it just it's a body part.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I asked the kids. I say, if I broke my leg, where would you go? Doctor. Okay, if I chipped my tooth, go dentist. If my car broke down, mechanic. Hey, where do I go if I have a broken heart? Guess what? It's still a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different doctor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And I tell people, Lisa asked me, that's my wife, who's real.
I've met her, or I talked to her. She's wonderful.
She's upstairs. She's awesome. She will often say, how's your brain treating you? I said, oh, it's being an asshole to me today.
Right.
Okay, so what do we want to do? I said, I don't know. Let's let it be an asshole for a little bit, see if it has a little tantrum, and evens itself out, and away you go. Because sometimes it does.
Right.
Sometimes it's just too much on your mind, or too little sleep, or whatever. And sleep is a weapon. Right? If you don't get enough sleep, that just messes up. Even if you're in the most perfect of mental health, if you've had lack of sleep, I mean, a few months ago I went 6 days without more than a couple hours of sleep, and I was so whacked at the end.
Yes. Now,
right?
does that
on the seventh day? I don't want to say things. On the seventh day, Tazz took care of. But on the seventh day, I remember going to sleep and then waking up in the same position that I had gone to sleep in. I'm like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. Like, wow, man, I can't even. And then I realized, oh, I better sleep 9 hours. But I automatically woke up going, I didn't get enough sleep.
Right.
And I went, oh, okay, well, yeah, hey.
So do you, like, is that part of the manic side of bipolar, is that you don't sleep for, or?
Manic is the cocaine of mental illness, I think, right?
Yes,
it's just like, this is great, it's perfect. Oh, my nose is bleeding, right? And it just doesn't, there's no need to sleep.
Right.
Why would you need to sleep? I got things to do. I'm not going to finish any of them, but I got things to do.
Right. So how do you deal with it now when it's coming on? Like you said, your family you let them know, you give them the signs that you think something's happening, or they let you know. So how do you cope with it when you are in it?
I write it out.
Okay.
And I talk myself through it, and I talk to my psychiatrist, and I mean, but lithium helps a lot because lithium is a great mood stabilizer, and I love the fact that you can get 3 months at $30. Hey, Pfizer. But they haven't figured out how to wreck that yet, right?
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Don't give them that secret.
No, I won't. I'm like I just need the same stuff that the electric cars have in their batteries. But I deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. I tell myself, okay, you're manic. Okay. going on. And that doesn't work all the time, but it doesn't. My manic stages used to sometimes last months, and now they last, if they last a day, I'd be very surprised.
Okay.
Because what I do is I sit down and I think of all the things, if I don't control this, all the things that can happen. What have I lost being manic? I've lost relationships, because when you're manic, who you have sex with doesn't matter as long as you got the compatible parts, right?
Yeah.
And who you get mad at, or how much you drink, and how much you fight, because I used to love to fight. Oh my God, I love to fight. And I think it is because I would get hit and I would feel something.
Right.
And then I play, same thing I learned in AA, really, which I didn't go to AA very much, but the one thing I do remember was play everything out to the end. And by the time I play it out to the end, I realized, okay, this is a fun ride, but I don't have a parachute.
So you don't have to ride.
I don't have to ride.
Yeah.
I'll get off here. I'll be that kid that's climbing up the slide.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go all the way down, right?
Yeah. And so then that takes away the guilt and the shame, and that also leads to much more happiness.
Because it's just pride in who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's Stephen Hawking. He could have just folded it all in when he ended up having to be in a chair and talk with a machine, right? He didn't, because he knew that his brain was still brilliant. The packaging was damaged. Right?
Yeah.
The pie inside was fine. The box is busted up.
That's right.
Right?
I like that.
And so you often have to just be kind to yourself. Do you think somebody that has cancer gets mad at themselves for having cancer? You can get mad at the disease. You can get mad at the situation. You can get mad at the whatever creator you pray to or subscribe to for giving you that. But you don't get mad at yourself.
Yeah.
For being sick.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I get pissed when I have a sore throat because I can't talk. Some people are like, oh, maybe once a week you can get a sore throat for a day. It'd be nice, Tazz. That was less talking, right?
Yeah.
But you know what, Carrie, we're so hard on ourselves, and a lot of that is because the stigma behind having a mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, I weep often over losing people to their own hand because they didn't realize. I mean, I cried for days, quite literally for days, when Robin took his life, when Robin Williams took his life.
Oh, that was, yeah.
And then cried again when they found out that it was because he had Louis, what's it called? Yeah, something along the. If we'd only had a phone, I could quickly look it up.
I know.
You know.
I was just reading about it last week too, and again, and I was so devastated by it. I mean, we all felt. I don't know. Did you ever get to meet Robin Williams?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Hey? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
Lewy body dementia, LBD.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I met him a couple of times, right? And I remember him saying to me, "You're the funniest person I've ever seen as a comedian." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And then he said the same thing to the next guy.
Oh.
and he looked over at me and he smiled. I'm like, "Whatever, I don't care."
He still said it to you.
He still said it to me first because I was first in line.
Right.
But you know, what if I taken my life?
Yes.
I've tried a number of times. What if I was successful, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, I tried to take my life, and I was okay with that at that moment because, you know, I'd broken up and I thought I was a loser and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And now fast forward probably 20 years. I'm doing a show for first responders, and this lady come up to me and she goes, "Did you ever live in Calgary?" I said, "Yeah, I did." And she goes, "Did you ever live on an apartment on 8th Avenue?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh my God, I still have something of yours."
Oh,
I said, "Oh, who are you?" And she goes, "I'm one of the ambulance attendants that came to your house,
no
to
way.
your apartment, when you had drank a bottle of Jack Daniels and you'd taken a bottle of pills."
Yeah.
And she goes, you had a taped to your mirror in the bathroom said, "You made it through today, now just go to sleep."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Look at this. Why don't you do this?" And you told me, I told her, "You can just have that." So she took it as a reminder.
Yeah, yeah.
She had it for however many years, and she goes, "It's still on my mirror in the bathroom."
Wow. Wow.
And she said, I never forgot that call.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And what does that even now bring you? Does it bring you back to that moment ever? Do you ever go back to that place, and not to obsess about it, but like to reflect?
No,
And
I can still feel the tube going down my throat to pump my stomach. I can still remember talking to the nurse, asking me why I did this, and she was so funny. She goes, "Well, if you ever try to kill yourself again, I'll kill you." She goes, "There's been dozens of calls to the emergency to see how you're doing, and there's like 6 or 8 people waiting in the waiting room."
right.
She goes, "How do you not see that you're loved?" And I go, "But I'm not. They just feel sorry for me." And she just said to me, "That's not true. People feel sorry for puppies. You need to get help."
Right. Wow.
And I didn't, not for a little bit.
Okay. Took a while still.
Because I'm a male and I know what's going on.
Right. But I
don't need no fancy doctor degree.
No. Well, but I do love the fact that she was a positive, like you can hear that positive voice from her.
Yeah, she was.
And you know what that I kind of heard out of that is you said, well, she said they all love you. You know how many people love you? And you said, no, they don't. But did you love yourself? And that's where you started this conversation with, right?
Yeah, I had to learn to love myself. I was in the psych ward there, and a lady came up to me, not elderly, but grandmotherly, and she looked like she belonged there. She had her lipstick was all goofed up, and she had 2 different color eyeshadows on, and she walks up to me in a very, very thick accent. She goes, "So, how old are you?" I think I was like 20 whatever years old. I said, "I'm 20 whatever." And she goes, "So it took you 20 plus years to get like this? You think in one day you're going to be okay? It's going to take work." And she says, she said, and you should trust me. I could be your grandmother, but I don't think you're Jewish." And I said, "No, I'm not." And then I used the Dean Martin line. I said, "But I can pass the physical." And she laughed. I laughed. I listened. And I got out of the psych ward as soon as I could.
Yeah.
I just left. I just walked out. And as I'm walking home in stocking feet through Calgary to go to my apartment, because my wallet and everything was in the apartment, I had no idea. I realized I needed help then, but I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until 1997 or so that I got the help that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then even then, you don't always get the right psychiatrist for you.
It takes a while.
I had a psychiatrist. I had a psychiatrist named Peter something or other who said to me, "Well, you shouldn't have kids."
Right.
What? You shouldn't have kids. There's no. You got your mental illnesses are so much that you shouldn't have kids because we don't want to transfer that mental health, their damaged DNA,
right,
onto kids. But I'd already had a kid.
Right.
And I thought, and when my boys both have ADHD, both have some anxiety and some depression going on, when I see that, I think, this is my fault.
Right. Oh, yeah. I know.
But you know what? It's just, and I have tears often when my boys are struggling, because maybe if they had a better father, or maybe, and then I just stop myself right away and go, no, they're having these issues, and there's probably no better father for them right now than you, because been there, done that, got the T-shirt,
Yep.
won the contest,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when my boys come to me with problems, we openly talk about it. When my boys' friends, I still get my 29-year-old, I still get friends of his calling me for advice and talking, or picking them up when they've had too much to drink or whatever, because we're a forever family.
Right. Yeah.
But it took a long time, and I don't love myself as much as I should. I still hate parts of me. I still really despise what I've done, even though I can't say I'm sorry enough. The other day I said something to I hate saying ex-wife, but my oldest son's mom. She goes, Tazzy, you need to stop talking about that, because you're beating yourself up for shit I don't remember.
Interesting.
She goes, and if you don't remember it, if I don't remember it, it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's where the mind is a tricky little, you know what. Yeah. So you just have to.
How often do you remember the bad stuff that you've done as opposed to the good stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. I mean, and I just love you. It's such a good storyteller. I can see how you have stood the test of time for the last 30 years with your comedy. And I do have to ask you this though, with
Yeah,
your
for sure.
with your dyslexia.
Yeah.
Because I often have said that about myself too. About numbers though, I feel like I'm mathematically dyslexic.
Yeah. Like my buddy Derek Sagan says, I don't know, I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah, I used to. I used to do hair, and I'd say I'm not a mathematician. I'm a beautician. But there's lots of smart beauticians, so.
Yes.
No, I just wondered about your comedy. Like, so do you sit down and write out your shows? Does it all come to mind? Is it all off the cuff? Like, how does that work with?
It doesn't. I will write stuff out when I need to. CBC needs everything written out because it's CBC.
Yep.
Usually, if I'm submitting to a festival, which I haven't done for a while, I'll actually just go record it and send it to them. My dyslexia is a lot better, but still, sometimes it's like I'm back being in grade 2 again, right? So when my early years was hardest. I collect comic books, and I'll tell you why I collect comic books. Well, first of all, I'm a giant child with a MasterCard, but one of the reasons I collect comic books is that's how I learned to read, because when it was a whole bunch of words jammed together on a page, my brain just shoved everything together and moved everything around, and if certain letters are the same shape or certain numbers are the same shape, threes, B's, eights, C's, any of that sort of stuff, my brain just mixes them all up.
Yeah.
But with comic books, because they're all in little, like a little, they're captured in a little like a little what's it called?
Bubble.
Little voice boxy thing. I'm sure somebody else will know what it is. And because they were captured in that little space, my brain went, oh, that guy's saying that. That guy's saying that. Wolverine saying that.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and plus I love the art.
Right.
And my dyslexia, I'm slower now. I use my finger a lot. And when I have to do I had to do a big gala a little while ago, and there were a bunch of names. I go, everybody's name needs to be spelled out the way it's supposed to be and phonetically.
Oh.
And so that they would, Tazz would be T-A with a thing and a Z, right?
Yeah,
well, that's a bad example. My name is exactly the way it sounds. But they how do you spell Tazz? T-A-Z-Z. How do you sound it out? T-A-Z-Z. Okay, thanks, Tazz. You're welcome, Tazz. But certain things, certain things are spelled out a little bit more. And if the type is really big, I can read it easier.
Right.
So when they send me a script, it's got to be in 20 font. And basically, it's a word a page. Good evening, friends. Period.
So how do you read a teleprompter if you're on TV?
Really big. They make it really
they can?
big.
Okay.
Oh yeah. The first time I did the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, the first time I ever seen a teleprompter in my life, they said, "Okay, just write out what you need." And I said, "Well, I just need points, right? Like here's this letter, this word reminds me of my gig, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's just before my head injury. I have a head injury, so my brain doesn't work as well anymore. But the first time it was, I'm all over the map, and I'm just back and forth, and the teleprompter lady actually wrote, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
That's what she wrote on it. I get a standing ovation, and Lisa goes, "That was great." I go, "I was like a 4 out of 10." She goes, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Right? Don't judge yourself by what you've done. Judge yourself by how you feel.
Yes.
In that second.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what happens is your brain, without even knowing it, sometimes will say, "That was good, but you know what you did back in 1987? Nobody cares."
No.
Right? Nobody does. You do.
No. You're right.
Right? You know, I got an email the other day that said, Tazzy, thank you. You getting on stage and getting emotionally naked makes my life much easier to live."
Yeah.
And I was very proud. And I showed Weebeast that, and he goes, "Oh, that means one of two things. You've helped her with her life," or she goes, "My life sucks, but I'm not Tazz." And I told him, either way is fine with me.
Yeah.
Right?
But you did, and I have to say that's how you made me feel, even because I was there with a friend, and I'm not drinking, and I don't go to those kinds of events very often. And because I didn't know a lot of people, my anxiety was like up to here, and I was so relieved to sit forward, look at that stage, and when you started talking and I was hearing your story, it was like, and I looked at my friend and I said, "This is why I'm here tonight. I have to talk to him." And here we go. Here we are right now.
I remember you coming up and you said, "I have a podcast." I go, "When can we do it?" And you went, "What? Okay." Because it would have been way more uncomfortable. You're like, "I don't want you on it. I'm just telling you I have a podcast." I'm like, "Oh, sorry." But you know what? That's it. When you see somebody, as pompous as this sounds, see somebody like myself on stage.
Yeah.
That says, "Oh, I struggle with this," and they're like, "Well, how the hell do you get on stage?"
Yeah.
Well, it's hard sometimes, right? I'll have these massive anxiety attacks, and I'll be crying, and I get on stage, and I literally wipe the tear away, and I'm like, "Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, grab a snow cone and grab a snow cone and enjoy the show," kind of thing. But I know the first thing I say to myself is that it's all gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm 56 years old, and I've had my mental illnesses for as long as I can remember, and probably longer than I can remember.
Yeah.
Right? But it's gonna be okay, because my life is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There's some struggly bits, and there's some uncomfortable bits, and there's the stuff too. But you know what? If you look at the Mona Lisa, there's probably 10 or 15 different copies underneath that one until he got it to where he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
For every great recipe, there's probably dozens of dumpsters full of food that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
For every beautiful sunset, there's been 5 or 6 days of cloud. So what we need to do in our life is take the wins where we can, try our hardest to find our love for ourselves, and realize it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And reach out to people as much as you can to just say, "Hey, I love you, I miss you, what's shaking?" Right? "How are you doing? How can I help?" And don't be afraid to say no. If somebody asks you for help and you just can't, it's okay to say, I can't today.
Mm-hmm.
My feet won't move in that direction today.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And push ourselves. Push ourselves as much as we would push somebody else. I often say to myself, what advice would I give to somebody else going through the same shit I'm going through right now?
Yeah.
I go, yeah, but I wouldn't take it. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm an okay person. I'm not who I was. I'm who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that hate me for who I was. There are people who don't understand who I am. And my job isn't to educate those people. My job is to be proud of what I can do given the moment I have with the skills that I have in my brain at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out, I'll have a cry. I'll try to not make that same mistake again. I'll go cuddle with my wife. I'll go hang out with my boys. I'll go to my buddy's place and get covered in puppies. Whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't hate myself anymore. I do hate some of the stuff that I've done, and I hope to get over that.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent a lot of my time hating everything about me. And as my wife said, you should try to see yourself through our eyes, because we know you have flaws. We know you've had struggles. We know you have addictions. We know you have mental illness. And we take that and we love you.
Yes.
And that's what we have to do for ourselves. And be proud of ourselves. You know, you're sober however long now. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
You got to be proud of yourself because you discovered that you can love yourself more than your addictions.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't, self-medication isn't awesome, right? And people don't only self-medicate with booze or drugs. They do it with avoidance or food or sex or whatever. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
The biggest one we do is avoidance. I'm just not going to that party.
Yeah.
No, right? You're not you in spite of your addictions. You're you because of your addiction too, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And loving every part of yourself.
I think I told you the moment you told me you were clean that night, I went, perfect, love it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Very proud of you.
Yeah.
And I whenever somebody posts on Facebook, oh, I'm this many days sober, I always, and somebody goes, oh, I've been this many days sober. And I go, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't piss on somebody's parade from the tallest point on a building. Guess what? If you're 15 minutes sober, good for you.
Exactly.
And guess what? Before you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So now when I look, and I know now that I could have another drink and not drink to excess, because I was drinking to excess because I hated my life.
Yeah.
But I don't drink anymore because it's a badge of honor to me.
Yes.
So I just don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't need the Jack Daniels and Coke. I don't need the Southern Comfort and pineapple juice. It's delicious. Or gin and tonic or whatever, the beer and clam, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now sometimes I'll smell the smells and I'm like, oh, I remember that. And then my brain goes, yeah, but you remember the fights after. I'm like, not really. I don't think I had hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's about finding that little bit of yourself that survived all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's your soul. Right?
Yes.
I've lost relationships and but I believe that on this planet, somebody said, oh, I lost my soulmate because I was an alcoholic and I was an addict and stuff like that. And I said, no, you lost a soulmate. Because here's the deal. In this world, I believe, and these are just my beliefs, that you find many soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
Men, women, animals, but you find one mated soul. And that's my Lisa.
Right.
We are mated souls. I am so in love. I am so proud. And she just steps back because I still have a bad temper. I never lash out, and I just get frustrated. I get overwhelmed.
Right.
And when I get overwhelmed, I can't find my like I don't get angry. I get overwhelmed, like I said, and I can't find my words, and I can't find my direction, and I can't find, I just sit there and I spin and I spin and I
Right.
spin, trying every turn to pull my head out of my ass. And she just said, she comes and gives me a hug. She goes, "Holy, you are super overwhelmed right now."
Mm-hmm.
Shut up. I know I'm trying hard. She goes, "I love you." "No, no, you too. Say you love me." I said, "I love you." No. Say I love me to you. Right?
Yeah.
So you're to yourself, and I love myself. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's being truthful. You're sober because you were truthful with yourself. Right?
Yes.
You didn't say, "I'm drinking because of this and I'm drinking because of that. I'll stop that in a bit." No, you went, "I am an alcoholic.
Yep.
And I need to stop."
Mm-hmm.
So you never stop being an alcoholic. I'm just stopped drinking.
I just stopped drinking. Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? We're always alcoholics,
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
right?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't go to AA because I don't like to smoke or coffee. So
Right.
I'm just teasing AA. It's a great program.
It's a good program. I haven't been there for a
wonderful
while
program.
myself, but it got me going, and it definitely helped me. And the biggest one for me, it's kind of similar to you, and it's the one day at a time. And that's helped me for almost everything in my life. And that's like work-life balance. And like you said, saying no to somebody, or if I can't do the podcast that day, well, guess what? There's always tomorrow. And I can
Yeah.
only do one day at a time. I can only get through today. So
And even back it up each moment.
each moment, exactly, because you never know.
Right?
It's never promised to you the next moment.
You know what they say, and I remember somebody saying to me, "Every breath that you have is a new chance to be different."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say better. He didn't say worse. He said different.
Right.
So when people ask for help, I always say tomorrow will be different. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be better. I'm not going to say it's going to be worse, but it's a different day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that too.
And sometimes that's all we need to do is just, you know what, go up, go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You made it through today, so go to sleep.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of sleep, this
Yes,
is
love.
one of the questions I ask everyone. What is the last best thing you do every night before you go to bed? It's a clean show, by the way. Just kidding.
I got nothing, man. I got nothing. So ask me the question again, because of course I was being a smart ass and just erased it out of my head.
The last best thing that you do every night before you go to bed.
I close my eyes and I thank the universe for every challenge I've had. You see, we need challenges, because when you have a challenge and you supersede that challenge, you realize how strong you are. And I thank the universe for the things that are happening, and I tell the universe what I need to happen in the next little bit. And I thank the universe for my boys, and I thank the universe for my Lisa, and I thank the universe for letting me be a part of bringing love to the world. And I say, tomorrow, I want a chance to spread love to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that I've done in the past, I feel in my heart that I can make up for it by giving as much love to this world as possible.
And
sometimes that's a big donation to something, or me raising money to something. And sometimes it's just not saying what you want to say in the moment when you're hurting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Or not saying the wrong thing to yourself when you're hurting.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm looking for permission to be an asshole.
Right.
And it used to be I was super good at it and super quick at it.
Right.
now I try to put a little distance and a little thought into it.
You think about first before you're an asshole.
Yes, that's exactly it. I think about what I think about what I could say, so I don't have to say sorry afterwards.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this has been so wonderful, and honestly, you've just made my whole year so far. Sorry. No,
Well,
you've
there's 360. There's 363 more days, so we'll see how that works
Right.
out. Oh, this year's 364 more days actually. It's a
Oh,
leap year this year.
that's right. Yes.
That's right.
So do you have
We have
anything big coming up or anywhere where people can find you? And I know you do shows and workshops and everything you said.
Yeah, I've got nothing really that I can remember because, like I said, my wife's my manager now, and
Yeah.
then we had this little bit of a head injury a while ago, so nothing pays rent in my head anymore.
Right.
But you can get a hold of me at Big Daddy Tazz with 2 Zs .com, and there'll be some stuff on there, mental health, comedy, and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, there's lots of YouTube stuff you can Google for comedy or mental health or whatever you like. Just remember it's 2 Zs on Big Daddy Tazz, and just if you want to hire me, reach out and we'll do that. And if you don't want to hire me, you just keep that to yourself.
Well, I'm gonna have to. I want to know when you're on
The Debaters.
Yes, on the Debaters next.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah,
I
for
think.
sure.
How long ago were you on? Like, how long have you been on for?
Oh my gosh, I've been on for probably since the inception. I think we were there the first year.
Okay, because I
And
know
then
I've heard you
been on,
before.
Oh, my favorite, if you can find it. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. It's the one where we had GMO animals, where we could genetically modify animals, and
Okay.
it's my favorite one. It's my favorite one to have written.
Okay.
I did lines like, you take a boa constrictor and they take the DNA of a boa constrictor and put it together with an alpaca, and then you got a scarf you can give somebody that you hate.
Oh, I love it. Oh, well, this is the perfect place to end the show and with a laugh. And I guess if you have anything else you want to say as the last minute, you can go right ahead.
Carrie, I love you for what you're doing for the people that don't even know you, because what you're doing is you're taking your story and melding it with the stories of other people to give other people hope, right? So you take your story and you take, your guest, and you're like, okay, now here's a cake, and here's what we're going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are going to listen to this. They're going to feel hopeful. You're saving lives. You're saving hearts, right? And you're making people understand that it's okay to love themselves. And so I have great love for you for this, and I appreciate it. And I hope we can chat again, even if it's not on the podcast. If we run into each other again next time I'm in your area, I will let you know. And I'm proud of you for your sobriety.
Thank you.
Because it sounds weird to tell somebody, "Hey, way to go for not doing something," right? It's like Movember. People go, "Oh, that's a great. Yeah, thanks for Movember." I said, "Listen, I just didn't shave. It's something I avoided doing, and now that's it." But people don't understand that. Like I said, 25 or more years now, I've been sober, but I know the first 3 years were hardest.
Yeah.
Because I still hung out with the people that, so you're doing great things. You take care of yourself, make sure your heart is happy, and your heart's not happy, you get a hold of me, and I'll make you laugh, and I'll make you feel loved, and away we go.
You're amazing. I love you.
I love you too, very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. I sure hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. It was awesome. I am now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. You can find me on Instagram at carryonwithcarrie_podcast or on Facebook at carryonwithcarrie podcast. If you feel compelled to share and follow and all those good things, maybe just perhaps we can help just one more person at a time.